which was not an experience he'd had a whole lot of in his 30-odd years. After that, whenever she came down for more carvings, she was always glad to get whatever Doug had done, said nice things to him, left the cash, and got the heck out of the way. Even at her gallery in Anchorage, when he'd fell into the food table and dragged the president of the State Council on the Arts down with him, she'd passed it off as if Doug were the victim of the circumstance. Outside of Ruby McClay at the video store, Doug figured the lady from Anchorage as his best friend. Doug had few lines of reasoning to justify his figuring, only that she was always so nice to him. But lately it didn't feel so good when she came around. Ever since that messy business at her gallery, she'd been coming down more often. 5 pieces? She'd lean on her walking cane in Doug's kitchen, shaking her head, not exactly aggravated, but obviously not pleased. Doug, the demand for your work is phenomenal right now. They've tripled in value since the opening, and I'm still sold out constantly. You're going to have to do more. Now when she left him, there was an air of urgency that remained behind, like she'd hung up a room deodorizer with the scent of impatience. Doug knew that something felt different, but he gave it little thought even for him and continued to be fascinated by it all. Just the idea that this strange old woman would show up at his door one day, take a bunch of remodeled driftwood, and leave a pile of cash on his table. It still didn't make any sense. A year ago, he was living in a shack made of driftwood and visqueen, carving on things that floated up with the tides and mostly letting them float out again with the next. Now he was getting paid close to $200 a piece for them. The whole experience was as if somebody'd slipped him a Mickey. It felt pretty good, but he didn't have the faintest idea what was going on or what came next. The thing Doug noticed mostly happening next was that the money was piling up, and that just wouldn't do. Doug had never had more than 2 cents to rub together, and he wasn't about to change that now, no matter how much she paid him. Every time his benefactor would grace him with one of her visitations, he'd stuff the wad in his pocket and head to town to spend it. A fool and his money are soon parted, and there are few as foolish as Doug. He'd buy anything, and for sale signs were like beacons in the night to him. He had a cord of firewood stacked in front of his apartment, which was heated with an oil-burning heater. It was only $50 and the guy delivered it, so Doug figured it was a good deal. He bought a set of glass cookware to replace the garage sale aluminum junk he thrived on, and had to replace it with the old stuff after breaking every single piece of it in 3 days' time. Everything was going that way. He bought a VCR from Ruby at the video roundup, but has only gotten it to work a few times by lucky pokes at the right buttons. It just sat on his table, its clock interminably blinking 12 o'clock high like it was challenging Doug to do something until he unplugged it for good. The cherished clock radio with the lighted dial he'd bought at a garage sale months ago was replaced by an AM/FM home stereo system with a digital dial, automatic frequency control, programmable station selection, and local distance loudness augmentation, and Doug has never once successfully tuned in a radio station with it. He makes periodic stabs at pulling something in, but invariably gives up and surrenders to the television. Actually, it probably was the television that has affected him more than anything else lately. Doug has that quality of fixation often found in dull farm animals. From the moment he first turned it on, a glazing came over his already dulled gaze, and his carving came nearly to a halt. The woman from Anchorage spotted the destructive potential of this sad development right off the bat and attempted to short-circuit it by talking Doug into getting a telephone installed. Now Doug is not even left alone with his wispy thoughts. With uncanny ability, the blue-haired lady calls as soon as he's starting to slip into the abyss of a 19-inch diagonal true-color screen and coaxes him back to working on his carving. Doug's life had always been somewhat of a challenging horse for him to ride, but now it was absolutely bucking.